on the storms you imagine. I watched the sky darken this morning over the eastern hills, and I confess I nearly carried my chair inside. The clouds were tremendous, purple and swollen, the kind that promised to drench everything beneath them. And yet, within the hour, they had passed without offering a single drop. I sat dry in my garden, marveling at how thoroughly I had believed in a storm that never arrived. It occurred to me, not for the first time, that I have spent a great deal of my life doing exactly this. You do it too. I say this not as an accusation, but as a recognition, the way one might notice a friend has the same peculiar habit of checking whether the door is locked twice. We are, most of us, remarkable architects of disaster. We build elaborate catastrophes in the theatre of our minds, furnish them with vivid detail, and then suffer through them as though they were real. The heart races, the stomach tightens, the jaw clenches. And all for a performance that exists nowhere but behind our own eyes. Consider how much of your life has been spent in this rehearsal. You have lain awake at night, composing speeches for arguments that never happened. You have grieved relationships that had not yet ended, and in many cases never did. You have arrived at a day you dreaded, only to find it perfectly ordinary, even pleasant, and felt almost confused by your own relief. The mind, left unattended, is a restless playwright. It adores tragedy. Comedy does not concern it nearly as much, which is a pity, because your life contains far more of the latter than you tend to notice. I do not say this to dismiss genuine hardship. You have faced real difficulties, and you will face more. The river does not promise to be calm at every bend. But here is what I have learned, slowly and at some cost. The suffering we manufacture in advance rarely resembles the suffering that actually arrives. Real trouble, when it comes, has a strange clarity to it. You meet it, and something in you rises. You discover a steadiness you did not know you possessed, a resourcefulness that appears only when it is truly needed, like a muscle that will not show itself until the weight is actually lifted. It is the imagined trouble that leaves you weak, precisely because there is nothing to push against, nothing to solve, only a fog that thickens the more you stare into it. Have you ever watched a cat prepare for a threat that does not exist? The arched back, the wide eyes, the magnificent puffing of fur, all directed at a shadow or a curtain moving in the breeze. We laugh at this. We find it endearing. And then we go and do the very same thing with our pending conversations, our uncertain futures, our letters we have not yet opened. We puff ourselves up with worry and direct all our ferocity at curtains moving in the breeze. I say this with great tenderness, because I find us genuinely delightful in our foolishness. We are the most extraordinary creatures, capable of charting the stars and mapping the ocean floor, yet utterly undone by a tomorrow we have not yet reached. There is a discipline here, and it is not complicated, though it asks something of you. It asks you to stay where your feet are, not where your mind has wandered, not 3 weeks from now in a room you are already dreading, not 6 months ahead in a future you have decorated with your worst assumptions. Here, in this room, with this cup of tea growing warm in your hands, with this particular slant of afternoon light falling across the table. The present moment is almost always manageable. It is almost always more gentle than what you had projected. Even when it is difficult, it has the decency to be real, and real things can be met with real strength. I want you to try something. The next time you feel the familiar tightening, the pull of some imagined future reaching back to trouble your peace, pause. Ask yourself one simple question. Is this happening now? Not could it happen, not might it happen, not what if it happens, but is it happening in this very breath? You will find, more often than you expect, that the answer is no. And in that no, there is an extraordinary freedom. Not the freedom of denial, not the freedom of pretending everything will always be fine, but the freedom of someone who has decided to spend their one luminous life in the world that exists rather than the one they have invented to torment themselves. Think of the hours this gives back to you. All that energy, all that vivid creativity you have been pouring into catastrophe, suddenly available for something else entirely. For noticing the way bread smells when it first comes from the oven. For writing a letter you have been meaning to write. For walking slowly enough to see that the trees along your street have been quietly preparing to bloom while you were busy attending a tragedy that never opened. There is so much happening right in front of you, and you have been missing it. Not because you are careless, but because you were occupied in a theatre that seats only one. I am not asking you to be naive. Prepare where preparation is useful. A sailor checks the rigging before departure, and this is wisdom, not worry. But notice the difference. The sailor checks the rigging and then sails. The anxious mind checks the rigging, imagines the storm, mentally capsizes, mourns the loss of the vessel, grieves over the cargo, writes letters of apology to everyone on shore, and never leaves the harbour. One is prudence. The other is a prison built entirely from air. You have, I suspect, wasted some beautiful days this way. So have I. So has nearly everyone who has ever drawn breath. But here is the lovely thing about recognizing a pattern. You are no longer fully bound by it. The moment you see clearly what you are doing, you have already begun to do it less. Awareness is not a distant summit you must labor toward for years. It is a door you are always standing beside, and it opens with the lightest touch. The evening is settling in now, and the sky that threatened so convincingly this morning has cleared into something extraordinary. There are colors I do not have words for, pinks that shade into golds, that dissolve into a blue so deep it makes you ache with something that is not quite sadness and not quite joy, but somehow, beautifully, both at once. It is there for you too, wherever you are, or something equally astonishing, equally unearned. But you will not see it if your eyes are turned inward, watching storms that do not exist. Go outside tonight. Look up. Let the sky remind you of something you already know but keep forgetting. Most of what you fear is wind and shadow, and you are far braver than your worry has ever let you believe. The world is luminous. You are in it. That is enough to begin.